Hey guys, welcome back to another Crave Shock video. I have another deck tech for you today. It is a Nico deck, called it Icebound. Very fun deck. Obviously with Nico's whole job and what she's trying to do is to mill the opponent out. She was given a lot of support this set with the example of Ravishing Finale and some other cards, Fractal of Rain, that will help her do the job. Um, but she also can be very aggro, which is kind of cool as well. So let me get started. We do play the Spirit of Water. You can go Serene Water technically because she does become water. I do want to try that as well. But for now, I kind of want to go for the whole Icebound cheese strat. So I do want the extra card. Thought process of Tenoris level 1. This is very flexible. You could go Lorraine to maybe get a Bulwark Sword out. But Sonoros, I like the taunt. I also just want to be able to get my class bonuses potentially if I need to. Also, Savage Smash floating for him is very good. Nico level 2. Whenever a card with floating memory is banished from your graveyard, put a lash counter on Nico. And then on champion hit, you may have that opponent put the top X cards of their deck into their graveyard, where X is the amount of lash counters on Nico. So you want to be getting lash counters up. You've got most of your regalia here does cost because you want to be banishing floating to pay for the costs. Bulwark Sword is one of the zero costs of the deck though. Just a card to help clear early if you need to clear cards. And to get out if you don't really have much else to get out if you don't have float yet. We run GCR in this deck. We do want to draw cards. We are water. We want to be able to hold a lot of cards up. So drawing cards is probably very important for this deck. Orb Glitter, you're able to, with this card, glimpse one before you mill. So in regards to like the Fractal of Rain, for example, you can first see what is on top of your deck before you mill. So check if there's a float. If there's a float, mill you. If there's not a float, mill them, type of thing. Rusted Warshield is just a 1-cost, draw a card, prevent the next 2 damage, just a little block. Smoke Bombs is used to obviously get over taunts or intercepts to do your big finish or do a lot of damage of some sort. Tariff Ring to stop those pesky allies when you need to. Magebane Lash, this is the UR from the last set that kind of was brought out with Nico. On enter, put a lash counter on your champion. Magebane Lash gets +1 for each lash counter on your champion. Whenever your champion is dealt non-combat damage, recover 2. So very good into Diana, very good into non-combat damage decks, very good into Agrozander as well. Every time they mark the target or plant explosives you are healing 2. Every time you're taking 2 damage from Diana curses, you're healing 2. So it kind of negates the curses completely. And if you're stacking up some lash counters, this thing is swinging for a lot. It's also got 4 durability, which is a very nice amount of durability. You can also, with this, you can also like stack this with like your attacks and stuff to do some crazy damage. And there's also some Nikos back in set 3 that were running Fire Water and were flame sweeping for like 6-7 with Magebane Lash. It's just very fragile to fracturizers and stuff. That's why we're lucky to have our next card here, Tideholder Claymore. 2 costs 5/3. It costs 1 less to materialize if you are a Guardian. As additional cost to use this weapon for an attack, pay 10, reduced by 1 for each water element card in your graveyard. So very strong card. Sometimes you can actually pull off a Icebound turn 1, going second into a Tideholder Claymore, swing 5 into whatever else, try and push damage if you don't find Icebound. Icebound well, actually, we won't go to Icebound yet. We'll stay on Tideholder. So Tideholder, at that point, you're paying the 2 because you are still a spirit, but swinging for 5 normally is a lot of damage, so it's pretty strong. And a very, probably MVP of the deck, very underrated card is Vapor Jet Shield. It's a 2-cost regalia that links to your champion, and everything is reduced by 1 on the champion. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but against an allies deck or against like a lot of little bits of damage, this thing is insane. Turns off Tristan Shadows most of the time. This thing is, very, very strong into most decks other than like a Rye or a Merlin or whatever. Going into the main board, we have 4 Idle Thoughts. Love to Idle Thoughts into a Deep Sea Fractal Float, or you can go into Idle Thoughts into a Frostborn Paladin, Idle Thoughts into whatever. You can set up a a good Fractal of Rain or a Vapor Jet, etc. Very good. Savage Smash, it's Savage Slash's older brother. 4 cost, 4 damage, flowing memory, love it. Cerulean Decree is a Frostbind on steroids. If it lets me open it. It is a 3 cost, imbue 3 water cards. You may negate a card, and you can also choose to draw a card into memory or -3 in attack. So the -3 is very good for, stopping a Tristan Slice and Dice or stopping a multiple attack or even just stopping, lethal with it. You can choose to do that. Don't always hold it for negate. You can choose the -3 and draw a card, because as long as you're drawing a card into memory, you are +0ing, so it is worth it. Deep Sea Fractal, both mill a card. Use this when you know what's kind of coming up. It's kind of good. Fractal of Intrusion is a good way to get lash counters and use your float if you have an abundance. They lose a card, you +0, so it's pretty good for you. Fractal of Rain is a new card at MRC. It is a Fractal, which is imbue 2. At the beginning of your recollection phase, if Fractal of Rain is imbued, target player puts the top card of their deck into their graveyard. So you get 2 or 3 on the board, or even get 1 or 2 on the board, and you're starting to mill yourself float or mill them 1 to 2 every turn, which kind of adds up over time. 3 Fracturize, it's a must-have. Hits weapons, hits Diana's gun, hits whatever you need to hit, hits the scepter, etc. We do have Frostbind, so 3 Frostbinds, 4 Cerulean, so 7 negates in the deck. Frostborn Paladin running 4 of. We do enjoy Frostborn Paladins because we do banish a float, getting a lash counter later on, and it is a 3/4 for 3, which is quite valuable. We do get to draw a card as well. Moving on to one of our side win cons of the deck is Icebound Slam. So Icebound Slam is a 7 cost attack. This card costs 2 less to activate if you are a Guardian. On attack, put the top 5 cards of your deck into your graveyard. Then if there are 5 or more water element cards in your graveyard, Icebound Slam gets +5. So we are running 52 water cards in the deck, so most of the time you will hit 5 water here, and this will be coming in for 8. Going second, turn 1, you can just play this off the rip and mill 5, deal 8, and then you can go into like a GCR and you can Icebound again for another 8, which is 16. So people need to kind of respect that. There's like no sitting as a spirit against this deck, I don't believe. It's just too dangerous sometimes. If they have double Icebound, you kind of lose. But that's more of like a cheesy strat. Like that's not really following much of the rest of the deck. That's just you. If you see it, you deal 8, you deal 8. If you mill float on the way, it's perfect, right? We have Lost in Thought. Lost in Thought is X cost. You may banish up to X cards with flowing memory from your graveyard. Draw a card for each card banished this way. So this is a card that for each floating that you use to banish in this card, you do have to pay that cost. So if there's 2 float, it costs 2. If there's 0 float, it costs 0. This card's very good to turn 1. You can Lost in Thought Frostborn Paladin. It's very nice. Kind of just don't even put any cards down. It's also very good later. You can like fast speed gain lash counters with this to draw cards, which is quite strong. You can even do it mid swing, to be honest, which is quite good as well. Moving on to the main finisher of the deck, it is the Ravishing Finale. This is the big boy attack. It is a 3 cost attack. As an additional cost to activate this card, you have to banish 2 cards with flowing memory from your graveyard, which is also automatically giving you 2 lash counters as well. And then on champion hit, for each damage counter on the hit champion, their controller puts the top 2 cards from their deck into their graveyard. So this is normally hitting for a minimum of 10, 12, etc. So you're thinking like even this just hitting in general is going to be milling 24 off this damage, let alone the damage that's already on the champion. Plus the mill counters, the mill from the lash counters as well. So if you've got 3 or 4 lash counters, it's that on top of this. I've seen this mill for 40. I've seen it mill for 52. If you can get this off, you're probably going to win the game most of the time. It is just trying to control that float in the bin and not having a pesky blocker in the way. Refracting missiles, we do run a lot of fractals. We have how many? 3, 4, 5. We have 9 fractals in the deck. It is float. It's an easy way just to ping some damage if need be. You can Ravishing in response refracting to get more damage on as well. We do like refracting to deal with the pesky blockers as well if we need to, pre-rec or post-rec. Do like that card. Song of Frost is in to just stop yourself from getting blown out by big swings yourself, or Nico mirrors, or Diana shots. Does really help the kind of situation. Storm of Thorns is a very strong flow memory card as well. If damage will be dealt to a unit you control this turn, prevent 1 of that damage. and they will take 1 damage if it is a combat attack. Storm of Thorns plus Vapor Jet Shield is just a 2 block for a turn. It's just a mini Resolute, but it's float, so it's a +0. It's very strong together. Storm of Thorns is kind of how this deck survives in the Allies matchup. 2 Tide Vines, it was 4. We've gone down to 2 at the moment just because it hasn't really seen much play. It's kind of been unnecessary with all the other kind of engines going on in here. Could probably be replaced at some point for a different card. I do personally like Hailstorm Guard in the main board, but we currently do have it inside, so maybe it'll go there. For Vapor Jet Shield Bearers, this card is very important to Nico as well. Steadfast, so it can retaliate while it's rested. And every time it hits something, you get to look at the top card of your deck and you may put it into your graveyard. So if you get, this is just a better hasty for this kind of engine itself. If you can get 1 or 2 of these on the board, you can really get through your deck very quickly, get water in your drop, get float in your drop, and see what's kind of coming up. Moving on to the sideboard, as I said in the Arasano deck, the sideboard's not final. It's kind of just a rough thing at the moment. There is no meta. Nullifying Lantern, although it hurts us with our Icebounds and with our Tidemore Claymore, you do not want to get Erupting. You do not want to get, hit with a Fire Momentum for 20 damage. We have Purification in here to deal with the curses and Diana, because we can't really stop the Diana shot as much as other people can, like Tristan. We have Swooping Talons in here for people who Nullifying Lantern us. We do not really want to be nulled. We get null, we lose 5 damage on this, and we lose the use of this, which isn't fun. We do want to get rid of the Nullifying Lanterns. Hailstorm Guard is cost 2 less as a 4 cost with Nico, and it is block the next amount of damage, mill that many cards. So big attacks, big fireballs or arcane blasts, you'd want this in the kind of the main board to kind of stop the huge damage coming your way. And then although it is a very expensive card, we have 3 title sweeps in the sideboard as well. We were versing Tristan's and we're getting quite frustrated that the clones kind of would just take up all our hits when we'd have to waste our Claymore over and over again into the clones. We do hold up a lot of cards. We do have 7 to 8 cards most of the time. So potentially title sweeping for 7 with like your Lash Counters or with your Claymore or whatever probably is the play to wipe off those clones for good. So that's probably why that is there as well. This deck isn't probably top tier competitive. It's not S tier. It's not going to, fight with Luxem Xander, or probably beats Luxem Xander actually. If it won't fight with like a Merlin or something crazy like that, it is something fun to bring to locals, and with some more work might get more competitive. We do have to see how the meta kind of sits. It is quite good into allies, and is quite good into people who aren't like respecting the Frostbinds and counter spells. I would give it a try. It's good fun. And yeah, if you guys want to hear any other kind of deck techs, please feel free to let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe, and I shall see you next time.